Firstly, many thanks for this invitation to speak in front of you today, and really just to give you a view from one provider of freight logistics services. In our company, we recognise that transport has a significant and important role to play in order for Scotland and the UK as a whole to meet its legally binding climate change targets. Our company started in the 1920s with one horse and cart and has progressed over the years to be a significant employer of individuals. We have quite a lot of vehicles. Now, just to put some statistics to you, within the UK there are some 365,000 large goods vehicles. Now, by that, what I'm saying is that's vehicles with a gross mass in excess of 3,500 kilograms. 365,000. We have in our logistics division 350. So we have quite a significant role to play in ensuring that our impact on the environment is minimised wherever possible. So what I want to do is just give you an insight into some of the things that we do in order to operate our vehicles quite clearly in a safe manner, but also an environmentally friendly manner wherever possible that we can. A little bit about what we can and what we actually do to minimise that impact. I'm sure most of the audience are aware of the EC directives that came in with regards to Euro emission standards from 1991, when effectively we had Euro 0, all the way up to the end of December 2013 when Euro 6 was introduced. An interesting thing about this is if you actually follow it through, between 91 and 2013, we've actually reduced these constituents by between 95 and 98%, which is quite a significant saving. It's important, though, that we also recognise and understand why CO2 isn't there. But when I look at this, it's very, very interesting from my point of view. To let you understand, around at 1990, I started in Crown Service in the Department of Transport, and one of the functions that we had then, and the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency still has now, is the statutory annual testing of heavy goods vehicles and buses. Now, when I did this in the early 90s, for diesel engine vehicles, we only measured density of smoke capacity. And by doing that, what we would do is we'd put a steel pipe in an exhaust, we would have a white board, and I as an individual would make a subjective determination as to whether that should pass or fail. Life moved on and we came into the 96, etc., and we started to do metered emission testing. Again, what we're measuring is opacity, the density of smoke coming out of a vehicle. It may be interesting for you to understand that in the last 2 or 3 years we've actually came full circle and we no longer carry out metered emission testing of heavy goods vehicles and buses unless, in the opinion of the examiner, by the driver or the presenter depressing the throttle, the quantity of dense smoke coming out of the exhaust warrants an emission test. So we have, by default, came full circle. And it's quite an interesting thing, that, because, you know, when I worked with the Department of Transport, a thing I used to say to people when I was speaking to them, you know, I actually don't make the legislation. As an enforcement officer, I'm here to enforce it and guide you with best practice and how you can follow suit and become compliant. But what I would say to you people, to the audience here listening to me, and maybe this is a question, is that if you consider we have came full circle, and the legislation between different types of vehicle testing in cars, petrol vehicles, etc., measure different constituent emissions, is are we missing an opportunity? Because statutory annual testing is once a year, and we only measure one part of it, and to all intents and purposes it is particulate matter. It's not NOx nor the other ones, and it certainly isn't CO2. So there's a possibility, there's an opportunity here, but I think that's for the people that create the legislation. So as a logistics provider, we are bound obviously with EC directives and UK legislation. We need to be innovative and look at what we have in our vehicle fleet. How can we make that best work for us and our customers, with obviously the view to minimising our impact. So we have things like quite comprehensive driver training programs. Our vehicles run in low rolling resistant tyres. Modern vehicles nowadays drive based on the topography of the land. They learn by how the driver is using the vehicle. And it's interesting for me sometimes because I listen to people having a discussion about fuel consumption, this thing about CO2, and I'm conscious that that's not necessarily a big one here today, but it's interesting whereby, you have two individuals and they're talking about miles per gallon, and, my car achieves 38, whereby, yours gets 40. Some people don't see a big problem with that. In my business, we look at fuel consumption to the second decimal place. If I have a vehicle with a gross mass of 44,000 kilograms that can achieve 8.5, and a sister vehicle that can achieve 8.6 or 6.5, over a financial year, that's not only a significant sum of money, but in terms of the amount of CO2 emitted to the atmosphere, that is significant. And that's the key difference between road freight and, if you like, the general members of the public. In terms of where we are as a company with our fleet, we are very, very fortunate, given our size. But as of March 2016, 53% of our road fleet will be Euro 6 and 47% will be Euro 5. And as the years go on, our aim is obviously to target Euro 6, 100% compliant. We don't know what's coming in with Euro 7. There's a number of things being muted, Vecto, etc., various things like this for the measurement of emissions from large goods vehicles, but nobody really knows at this time, so it's a bit of an unknown. Another thing as a company that we are fortunate to do, and again this goes back to the root thing, and the theme here today is about the environment. We are very strong advocates of rail. For us as a company, it is never and never will be road and. It will never ever be road versus rail. It's always road and rail in our belief. It's a partnership and a collaboration between two modes of transport. It's a known fact that emissions from rail freight per tonne kilometre are almost 4 times less than that of road transport. Going back to this thing that I mentioned about innovation and looking at the assets that we have, like most people in life are governed by legislation. The Department of Transport and the government in 2012 launched a 10-year trial. They call it the longer semi-trailer trial. Some people may very well be aware of it. And to let you understand what that, your maximum length of a goods vehicle in Britain at the moment is 16.5 metres. The longer semi-trailer trial, of which the current time of speaking, there's about 1,640 trailers and vehicles in the UK just now, allow you to move freight up to 18.75 metres in length. So effectively you've got a payload increase of 15%. What you do not have, and this is important, is an increase in gross mass. Vehicles in the UK are still restricted to 44 tonnes maximum gross. So by default, there's actually a payload compromise, because having a vehicle overall length 2 metres longer, it's naturally a little bit heavier. But what we find as a company, what we've done, we've looked at this in 2 routes. One with regards to rail freight. When you put a shipping container on a train at the moment, the maximum length in the UK is 45 feet containers. When you put that in a freight train, you've got a fresh airspace both fore and aft of it, that eventually you could carry up to 55 feet. So we see that as an opportunity. What we've actually developed is a 50-foot container that we put on the train, and it gives us a 15% increase in payload. But more importantly, and for the topic of today, is it gives a 13% saving in overall CO2 emissions, and that is significant. Just to put some more statistics on it, in a 4-month period, we will do 226 train journeys from Grangemouth to Daventry in Northamptonshire. That's a saving of 22,700 miles over 4 months, and that is hugely significant for us and everyone else. As I do stress the point, it's a longer semi-trailer trial. They're exactly the same length as what you see car transporters today. So these vehicles for many, many years have been in the public domain. Most members of the public, when they see that type of, in this one, other than it telling you it's 15% more capacity, would not be any the wiser. We as a company have 154 of these. that give us this 15% extra load fill. But as I said earlier, because we don't have an increase in payload mass, there isn't a trade-off with fuel efficiency. Moreover, we've actually found, even with the introduction of Euro 6, our vehicles today are actually more fuel efficient than Euro 5. And that's born from driver training and investing in the latest technology. And as I said earlier on, when, like us, when we're looking at fuel to the second decimal place, we can be talking 0.2 and 0.3 of addition. For our company and our organisation, that's hugely significant. Just to end, if I may, we and I'm conscious that I believe EcoStars are here today. We became members of the scheme in 2013. We're very proud to say that we're a 5-star member. We are members of 14 locations throughout the UK. But I mean, for us, and certainly for me, because this is the first time that I've been in this type of audience, EcoStars provides a super opportunity for people to network and share best practice. As a company, we don't deliver goods within towns and city centres, etc. We, moreover, make best use of the motorway network that's available. But it's interesting, and it's a great opportunity for someone like me to understand the issues and the practicalities of those who deliver freight into the cities are challenged with. Because I can take that away and look at, well, could we adapt that? And it's all about this. And as somebody said this morning, I think quite rightly so, is, success is by working in partnership. And we as a company fully endorse that view. So aside from really just obviously thanking Ellen and her team for the opportunity to speak to you, thank you very much.